It will come as a great surprise to many English-speaking people just how many words are actually from Arabic. Common English words are actually from Arabic words originally. And I want to share some very fascinating examples, very common examples to be found in this book called The Oxford Dictionary of Word Origins, published by Oxford University Press. There's a fascinating paragraph here on page 21, which is headed, "Who put the sugar in your coffee?" And I just want to read some of the examples and perhaps make some comments on them as well. And the article or the paragraph reads as follows: while much of the Western world was in the Dark Ages, Arabic culture was making enormous contributions to art, philosophy, science, and medicine. From medieval times, merchants brought Arabic words to the West, along with new goods and materials, including those household staples, coffee and sugar. What could be more English than coffee and sugar, one might think? Coffee actually derives from the Arabic word kawa, forgive my pronunciation, although the word entered English in the late 16th century via the Turkish word kahve. Muslims had taken wild plants from Ethiopia and cultivated them in Arabia, from where the drink spread throughout the Arabic world and Turkey, becoming particularly popular in the international metropolis of Constantinople. And one can Google this and see lots of paintings of people in Constantinople having a coffee centuries ago. The word sugar, interestingly, has been in English much longer than coffee, coming from the 13th century by way of Old French and Italian from the Arabic word sukkar. And I've often heard this word mentioned in restaurants when people ask for sugar with their coffee. Now, this is a word which is very dear to Americans. They love their candy, don't they? What we call sweets. It's a North American term for sweets. Now, this is actually, sorry, it's an Arabic word, and that comes from candy, the Arabic word candy, which means candied or clarified and crystallized by repeated boiling. That's what the word candy actually means originally. So many Americans will be shocked to realize that their precious coffee and their candy is actually from the Arabic world originally, both the word itself and the commodity, in fact. Another important commodity was cotton, or in Arabic, cotton. Again, apologies for my pronunciation. Known in Britain, actually, by the 14th century. More exotic was mohair, which in Arabic was mukayar, literally choice or select, and saffron, or zafara in Arabic. A sequin was originally a Venetian gold coin, whose name came from the Arabic word sikar, a dye for making coins. Isn't that interesting? So a sequin was originally a Venetian gold coin. Never knew that. A dye for making coins was the original meaning. Trade often involves customs and traffic. So it's no surprise that the word tariff itself is from Arabic. Tariff is an Arabic word. There you go. Now, many people will know actually the Arabic al dash means the, which is reflected in the spellings of many familiar English words like albatross, alcohol, alcove, algebra. I mean, it doesn't mention it here, but there are many other words actually where al is featured in English words. And also it says in many proper names, and it mentions Al-Qaeda, which means literally the base, a reference to the training camp or base in Afghanistan used by those fighting the Russian occupiers. Islam and Muslim are not surprisingly Arabic words, and they're both from the same word, aslama, meaning to submit or surrender to God, to Allah. And both were first recorded in English in the early 17th century. An Ayatollah is a Shiite religious leader in Iran, it says. The word has been used since around 1950 in English, and many people only became aware of it when the Ayatollah Khomeini, who died in 1989, led the Iranian Revolution in 1979. By the way, I happen to know Ayatollah means like sign of God. Ayatollah, sign of God. It doesn't say that here. A much more established word in English is imam. I didn't realize this was an established word, by the way, in English, but the Oxford University Press book seems to think it is. The leader of prayers in a mosque, known since the 17th century in English. Very interesting. It's been around 300 years. Didn't know that. The word's root is amar, to lead the way, it says. And then other very obviously Arabic words which are part of the English language now. The word fatwa, which of course is misunderstood in the West completely, was in use in English as early as the 17th century. Very surprising. But it was an obscure and unfamiliar word until 1989, of course. Guess what happened then? When it suddenly gained new and widespread currency. In this year, the Ayatollah Khomeini used a fatwa sentencing the British writer Salman Rushdie to death for publishing the Satanic Verses, a novel regarded by many Muslims as blasphemous. Well, I'd say that was by all Muslims, not just some, but anyway. Fatwa, it states, is a generic term, this is correct, actually, for any legal decision made by an Islamic religious authority, but because of the particular way in which the English-speaking world became familiar with it, the term is sometimes wrongly thought to refer to a death sentence. Well, yes, that is a very common mistake in the West. It's nothing to do with death sentences at all. Another word often misunderstood by non-Muslims in the West is jihad. Now, this is a really very serious issue, particularly in Britain, maybe somewhere else in the West, where some people have famously on a march a couple of weeks ago called out jihad, the word jihad in London, in reference to calls for Muslim armies to liberate the Palestinians, who have obviously been brutally genocided in Gaza as we speak. And this was understood by the establishment, by the government and the media to be a call for terrorist attacks. This is obviously completely wrong and shows a total ignorance of the word and its meaning in its Islamic context, obviously. So the book here, so I'm reading from this one, the Oxford Dictionary of Christian Origins. The book says it is generally taken to mean war by Muslims against non-believers. Yet this is only a small part of the word's meaning. In Arabic, jihad literally means effort and expresses the idea of struggle on behalf of God and Islam, of which war is but one small part. The concept is sometimes divided into lesser jihad, or struggle against unbelievers or oppressors, and greater jihad, a person's spiritual struggle against sin. And there ends the article. One can quibble about some of these definitions and some of these comments, of course. I'm not going to quibble anymore. But I think the essential point I just want to get across here is that some very basic, very Western English words and concepts like coffee and sugar and cotton, tariff, candy, are in fact Arabic words originally, and not only the words but the commodities themselves were much used in the Arab world long before they were realized, discovered, imported into the West. And as the book correctly says, and I think this is still a lesson that many, maybe most in the West have yet to really understand and appreciate, although this is completely true, what it says, while much of the Western world was in the Dark Ages, backward, benighted, ignorant, Arabic culture, which predominantly means Muslim, in the Muslim world, of course, was making enormous contributions to art, philosophy, science, and medicine. And how from medieval times, so-called medieval times, that's the Western term, merchants, business people, traders, brought Arabic words and commodities and goods to the West, and including those household staples, coffee and sugar. So I think that's absolutely fascinating. And again, it shows how much interconnection, interpenetration there is between the Muslim world and the Western world for centuries. So any idea that Arabic is alien to us, Muslims are the other, and so on, actually historically it's not true. There was profound business, commercial trading going on for many, many centuries, and it wasn't just exchange of money. It was exchange of ideas and words and concepts, and it affected the English language. Now, I don't know virtually any German or Danish or Polish, but I wouldn't be surprised if many of these same words of Arabic origin are also in their languages as well. I would be surprised if there was like zero influence on their languages, given the civilizational interconnectedness historically. So I think that's absolutely fascinating, and hope you found it fascinating too. Till next time.